I only have $2. See me as your woman. Until a human finally wanted to love me. Orus-Tier held its evening brightness without dimming. Panels along the ceiling gave off a steady gold-white light. Ad screens floated in the air over the main walkway, showing drinks, music events, and rental cubes in slow loops. The stone floor under the crowd looked freshly cleaned, dark and smooth, with narrow metal seams between each panel. Railings on both sides were brushed metal without rust or dents. People moved in controlled lines, coats fastened, bags close to their bodies. Most of them wore soft synth fabric in muted colors, shoes without noise, collars neat. The only sound was the blend of footsteps, low conversation, and the hum of distant transit rings. Miri Ellis watched them from the shadow of a support pillar near the edge of the walk. She tried to stand straight, but her back ached. Her legs felt weak from too many hours spent upright and too little food. Her purple-violet skin was clean in some places and dirty in others. She had washed in a public hygiene booth that morning, but the day had rubbed grime back into the lines of her knees and ankles. Her long white hair fell over her shoulders and down her back in uneven waves. Some strands were smooth where she had managed to comb them with her fingers. Others were knotted from sleeping on hard surfaces. The stolen human jacket on her shoulders was too big, the sleeves hanging past her wrists. The fabric was rigid and still carried the faint smell of machine lubricant from its last owner. The collar scratched the back of her neck. Underneath, the wine-colored wrap dress clung to her ribs. The fabric was thin and worn. It had been made for warmer climates than this climate-controlled tier. She had tied it shut with a piece of gray cable she had ripped from a broken cart in a cargo dock. The knot sat at her left hip. The dress gaped slightly when she moved, and the slit on the right side exposed most of her thigh when she walked. Her boots had once been heavy work boots for a warehouse assistant. Now they were cracked and bent at the toes, laces mismatched. The right boot had a small tear near the side, where water sometimes leaked in during mid-tier wash cycles. She kept her right hand in the jacket pocket, fingers curled around two thin Aura credits. She had rubbed the edges so often that the metal felt warm. That was all she had left. She felt tired. Her eyelids burned. Her stomach cramped in short waves and then went numb again. She had come to Orus-Tier 8 months earlier with a sealed contract for service work in a lower residential zone. The plan had been simple. Work shifts, send credits back to her sister on the ground world, keep a bed, keep a locker, keep a name on a registry. The plan had lasted 4 months. The company changed hands. Management announced rotation. Her line was shut down. Her badge stopped opening doors. No one gave her a transfer. No one sent her home. She spent the first week arguing with building staff, then with a polite officer at a service desk, then with her own fear. The rent notice came. She paid it once. The second notice came. She could not. The rest had happened in small steps. One missed payment. One bag packed in a hurry. One locker emptied. One bed lost. One night on a bench. One offer outside a bar. One man's hand too tight on her arm. One bruise. Then another. Then more. She had told herself she would never stand on a clean tier in front of rich people and sell her body directly. That line had felt solid. Now she stood on the cleanest walkway she had seen, fingers locked around 2 credits, watching office workers and technicians move in well-fed lines while a Furlan coffee stand steamed at the corner. The air around the stand smelled thick and bitter from the coffee. Another scent floated under it, grilled meat with a sugary glaze. Zyron bread warmed on a side plate. Her empty stomach reacted to both. Her throat tightened. She adjusted the jacket again and scanned the faces. Her mind filtered for one type of target. Not drunk, not young and loud, not a group. Someone alone, someone steady, someone who looked like he was used to control and used to getting what he wanted without shouting. Her gaze stopped on the man standing near the coffee stand counter. He did not blend into the crowd. He was taller than most nearby. His build was solid under a dark coat that fit him properly. The coat had a high collar and a straight cut, with light reinforcement strips sewn into the shoulders. His boots were well-maintained, laces tight, soles thick. His hair was dark brown, cut close to the head. A faint shadow of stubble covered his jaw and upper lip. His nose was straight, but there was a small old break near the bridge. His eyes were muted gray-green. They moved over the crowd in a careful, systematic way, checking exits, rail gaps, stall placements, and approach angles. He did not lean on the counter or check his wristband every few seconds. His posture held the kind of discipline that came from training, not from fashion. Myron had been an orbital infantry sergeant for most of a decade. His unit had moved between stations and orbital platforms, handling security and small conflicts where the main forces would have looked excessive. He had learned to judge rooms quickly, to separate threat from noise. He had learned to keep his voice steady when everyone else panicked. 2 years earlier, after one deployment that went wrong and left 3 of his people dead in an airlock with partial decompression, he had walked away from frontline work. There had been a medical evaluation, a brief site consult, a set of discharge papers with polite wording and clear intent. He had taken a contract as a sound field calibrator for performance halls on Tier. The work was precise and quiet. He adjusted audio grids so every seat heard the same balance sound. His mission now was simple: do his job, keep his pace steady, stay off any security report, and sleep through the night without reliving his last command on a live channel. Tonight, he had finished a long shift. The hall had hosted a live band that insisted on heavy sub-bass. The repeated pulses had bored into his skull. He had stayed late to tweak the grid, then walked out into the corridor with a dull, controlled headache and a list in his head: food, coffee, then home. He stood at the coffee stand because he preferred to reset his mind before going back to the cube. The coffee helped. The crowd noise near the stand was simple and routine, without emergency. He lifted his cup and took a slow sip. The drink was hot and bitter, with a thick, nutty taste. He let the heat anchor him. He noticed the woman in the jacket because she did not move like the others. She kept close to the wall, watching people with too much focus. Her gaze moved from face to face, pausing on hands, on bags, on loose items. That was a pattern he recognized from patrol days, but the rest of her did not match a thief. Her boots were worn down. Her dress cable was improvised. The collarbones under the open jacket stood out more than they should. He felt alert. His shoulders shifted slightly. He did not take his hand off the coffee cup, but his awareness locked onto her. Mary Ellis took one breath, then another. She felt her nerves scrape raw. If she waited any longer, she would lose the courage to move. Her hand was slick with sweat around the credits. She stepped off the wall and into the main flow. People brushed near her, but did not collide. She navigated small gaps, eyes fixed on a man by the stand. Her right boot dragged slightly as she walked. The vendor caught sight of her first. He wore a sleeveless shirt under a plastic apron, skin shiny from steam and oil. His black hair was pulled back in a tight band. "You again," he said under his breath, but loud enough for her to hear as she neared. "Stalls are for customers. Move or pay." "I'm paying," she answered without looking at him. Her throat was dry. "Not you." A few people in line turned their heads. Myron heard the exchange. He glanced sideways as she stepped up beside him and into the span of the canopy light. Up close, he saw everything clearly. Her violet skin had faint yellow-green bruises on her upper thighs, half hidden by the wrap. Several small, healed cuts marked one knee. Her lips were dry and a little cracked. Glitter residue clung under her eyes, rubbed unevenly. The jacket collar rubbed an irritated red patch along her neck. She smelled faintly of low-grade cleaning solvent from public sprayers, mixed with smoke from cheap sticks sold on lower levels. Under that, he caught the sharper scent of hunger. People who had not eaten in a day carried a certain sweet, stale edge. He remembered it from field camps and refugee decks. She stopped facing him directly. Her hand came out of the pocket, opening slowly. 2 thin auric credits lay in her palm, marked and dull with wear. "I only have this," she said. Her voice was quiet but level. "See me as your woman for tonight." The words felt heavier than the credits. She did not add any practice lines. She did not lower her eyes in a trained way. She sounded tired and resigned, not coy. Myron did not answer at once. The old part of his mind that handled threat evaluation flared. This could be a distraction, Someone could be waiting to pick his pocket or lift his band while his attention sat on her. He scanned the immediate area. 3 clerks in pale jackets behind him, all focused on their drinks. One older woman watching with open disapproval. A pair of tech workers at the end of the line, joking quietly and glancing up every few seconds. No one closing in. No strange movement toward his pockets. He set his coffee cup down on the counter. His hand reached toward her, not for the coins, but for her hand. He closed her fingers around the credits. Her skin was cool and damp. He held her hand firmly enough that she would not drop them. "Keep it," he said. "You're not for sale." Shock hit her first. It ran through her chest and left a jagged emptiness. She had heard refusals before. Usually they came with a curse or a laugh. This one landed with calm certainty. Her instinct pushed her to yank her hand away. She did. His grip loosened a fraction, but did not break. The vendor saw the contact and snorted. "You bring your street problems here now," he said to Myron. "If she's bothering you, I'll call security." "She's not bothering me," Myron answered. His voice stayed flat. Mary Ellis felt heat rise under her skin. She did not want a scene. She had hoped for a quick exchange near the shadows, not a small circle of attention under bright stand lights. Laughter slipped from someone farther back in the loose group. "2 credits," a male voice said. "That's a discount even for this tier." The air around them changed. Heads turned. Someone's wristband cast a small glow that lit Mary Ellis's arm. For a brief moment, she was completely visible. The loose jacket, the sharp lines of her knees, the cable knot, the fading bruises. Her chest tightened. Her first instinct was to pull free and run, to get back to the sidewall, to lower walkways where no one knew her face. Myron felt her arm tense. He read the small shift of muscles, the subtle lean of her weight. He recognized a flight impulse. He stepped slightly in front of her, putting his body between her and the stand. He did not touch her again, but his stance widened, shoulders blocking the vendor's full view. "She's with me," he said. The vendor's expression turned mocking. "For the night," he said. "You taking charity cases now, Sergeant?" Myron's eyes narrowed. The title slipped from a past contact. The vendor had seen his old identification once when Myron had shown it for a discount. "For none," Myron said. "You will not talk about her that way again." The words were quiet. His tone held the same control pressure he had used on young soldiers who did not understand what they were playing with. The vendor looked away first. "Fine. You buy, I serve," he muttered. Mary Ellis couldn't hold back anymore. "I can stand on my own," she said sharply, voice low near Myron's shoulder. Shame and anger mixed in her chest. "I don't need a guard." "You needed food," he answered without turning. "You still do." He released her wrist and slid his credit strip across the counter. 2 coffees, he told the vendor. 1 Zyron bread coil, 1 plate sarna strips. Extra glaze. The vendor tapped his console, poured the drinks, and pulled sizzling meat from the grill. The sarna strips were thick and browned at the edges. The glaze bubbled and ran down the sides in sticky lines. The bread coil was twisted, the outer layer crisped with oil. Myron took the tray. The heat rose into his hands. He turned his head slightly toward Mary Ellis. "Come on," he said. "You can shout at me while you eat." She almost refused again on reflex. Pride told her to walk away and leave him in the stand and the crowd behind. Hunger answered with a sharp twist that reached her throat. "I'm not walking in front of you," she said. "I'm not walking behind you," he replied. "Side by side, or we both stay here in the vendor's way." The vendor already looked irritated enough. She let out a breath. "Side by side," she said. They moved away from the stand and the watching faces. The noise of the main walkway thinned as they reached a small recess in the outer wall. The alcove held a waist-high rail and a view down over 3 lower decks of Oris Tier. Below, lights lined the paths, and small vehicles moved along inner rails. The sound from below was a low, steady rush. Here, fewer people passed. An office worker smoked alone at one end, watchful but uninterested. A couple in neat coats whispered near the far edge and then left. Myron set the tray on the rail and slid 1 coffee cup toward her. Mary Ellis stepped up next to him but kept a slight space between their shoulders. She took the cup, fingers brushing his briefly. The drink warmed her hands immediately. The rising steam smelled of roasted seeds and a faint burnt edge. Her hand shook once. She tightened her grip. "Drink slowly," he said. "If you drain it in one shot, your stomach is going to protest." "You watch strangers' stomachs often?" she asked. "Only the ones who are starving," he said. His flat delivery softened some of the sting. She raised the cup and took a careful sip. The heat hit her tongue first, then the strong, bitter taste. She swallowed and felt the liquid slide down into the empty space in her middle. Her muscles loosened slightly. Myron opened the meat container and handed her a strip of sarnu. The glaze clung to his fingers. Up close, she could see more details about him. A faint white scar ran from the side of his jaw down to the beginning of his neck. His hands had light calluses along the base of each finger, the kind that came from handling weapons and tools for long periods. His coat bore small scuff marks at the elbows, but no tears. She felt confusion mixed with suspicion. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "You don't know me." "I offered something that most men here would take without a discussion." "I saw someone who hadn't eaten a real meal in a while," he said, "and someone who stayed standing while a group laughed at her." "I stayed standing because I needed to get paid," she muttered and bit into the sarnu. The meat was soft. Her teeth sank into it easily. Fat and glaze pressed against her tongue and slid to the back of her mouth, heavy and comforting. It hurt in a good way. Her eyes watered. She took another bite. "I had a contract once," she said when she could speak. "It paid enough for a bed and food. They cut half of us. No transfer, no shuttle home. I was supposed to send credits to my sister. Now I can't even send a message without paying for it." Myron listened. His gaze stayed on the lower decks, but his attention rested fully on her words. He knew this kind of story. He had seen versions of it at checkpoints and loading bays. Staff reduced, paperwork delayed, people left between systems with no one claiming responsibility. "You try the labor desk?" he asked. "Tier 6, Civic Wing. They told me to check the job grid," she said. "The grid wants IDs and clean rental records. I don't have either anymore." He nodded once. The system always closed in small ways for people who fell outside the main path. "What about you?" she asked. "You don't stand like someone who grew up on a quiet contract." "I served in orbital infantry," he said. "Now I calibrate sound fields and performance halls." "That is a large shift," she said. "Yes," he answered. That was the point. She could hear something under the steady tone. Fatigue. A choice made after something broke. "Why still wear the old stance then?" she asked. "It doesn't go away," he said. "You learn to stand a certain way. Your body keeps it long after the uniform is gone." She ate another strip. Her hands moved faster now. The feeling of food in her stomach sharpened her thoughts instead of dulling them. She watched him from the side of her vision. "So what is your main mission now, Myron?" she asked. "Since you're not saving stations anymore." "Stay employed," he said. "Avoid fights. Sleep through the night. That is all." "That's enough," he said. She wondered if that was true for him or just something he told himself. "My main mission is simpler," she said. "Eat today. Find a place to sleep where no one puts a hand on me without paying. Try not to die on a clean floor where they will be annoyed to see me." The directness of her words tightened his chest. He had seen bodies on clean floors. He did not want to add hers to that memory. "You have somewhere for tonight?" he asked. "Maybe," she said. "Depends on if I find enough credits to keep my spot behind a bar freezer. If not, there are vents that blow warm air under some stairs." He turned his head and looked at her directly. "That is not an answer I accept," he said. "You don't have to accept it," she said. "It's still the answer." He weighed his next words. He had rules for himself. Do not invite chaos into the cube. Do not take responsibility for strangers. Keep distance. He also had a clear image in his mind. Her boots torn at the sides, the bruise on her thigh, the way she had offered herself with 2 credits in public because every other option had closed around her. "I have a cube on a mid-tier," he said. "1 bed, a locking door, private hygiene unit. You can stay there tonight. No conditions." "Nothing is without conditions," she said. "The condition is you set the door code and you keep your credits," he replied. "If you walk out tomorrow and do not come back, that is your choice." She studied his face again, searching for signs of a hidden trap. His eyes did not flick down toward her chest. His jaw did not tense in the way men's jaws did when they held back a lie. "What if I decide to pay you later?" she asked quietly. "Not because I have to, because I want to." He did not look away. "Then we will talk about it later," he said. "When you're fed and not standing under a vendor's light with everyone listening." A small knot in her chest loosened. The fear did not vanish, but it shifted. "You talk like you planned 12 moves ahead," she said. "Habit," he said. She wiped glaze from her fingers with a napkin he passed her. Her hands had stopped shaking. The caffeine from the coffee and the warm weight of the food made her feel heavier, more rooted. "Take me to this cube," she said. "If you try anything I do not want, I will break your nose." He nodded once. "Fair warning," he said. They left the alcove and stepped back onto the main walkway. The crowd had thinned slightly. Some of the earlier faces were gone, replaced by new ones moving in similar patterns. Myron walked with his arms loose at his sides, but ready. He kept his pace steady, not rushing her. He adjusted his path around other people without making her shift sharply. Miri Ellis matched his stride. Her boots tapped softly on the stone. She kept her shoulders straight and her chin level. Her mind ran through options: run, stay, test, fight, trust. None of them felt fully safe. Staying in the open felt worse than following him. As they moved deeper into Orris-Tier, the light behind them from the coffee stand faded. Ahead, directional signs glowed in simple text, pointing toward residential stacks, transit lifts, and service corridors. Myron felt the familiar route in his muscles. He also felt the new weight of responsibility settling next to his usual routines. He had not planned on bringing anyone into his controlled, quiet space. He knew that once she stepped through his door, his mission would shift from stay alone and stable to something larger. He did not turn away from that. He adjusted to it. Miri Ellis walked one narrow step closer until their arms brushed briefly. She did not move away. Neither of them said anything else on the way. The city carried them forward, one clean segment at a time. The residential lift hummed as it rose through the mid-tiers. Its interior smelled faintly of warm circuitry and filtered air. The metal walls reflected Miri Ellis's figure in distorted fragments. White hair tangled across her shoulders, jacket slipping lower on one side, wrap dress tightened by the cable at her hip. She watched her own reflection briefly, then shifted her weight to ease the pressure on her sore feet. Myron stood beside her without speaking. His posture stayed straight, but relaxed enough not to crowd her. He kept one hand in his coat pocket, the other loose at his side. His eyes stayed forward, following the panel lights as each level clicked past. Miri Ellis felt tension coil through her back. Being in a confined space caused every instinct to sharpen. Her fingers pressed into the seam of her jacket sleeve. She forced her breathing to steady and checked the lift corners out of habit. Nothing threatening, just clean metal and the quiet hum of vertical movement. "You take this lift every day?" she asked. "Most days," Myron said. "It's the fastest route from the performance halls." "So you live alone?" she said, not as a question. "For now," he answered. "I don't bring people home, not even friends. I don't keep many." His voice held no pride or shame. "Makes life simpler." The lift slowed. The display lit up with level 38. The doors opened to a wide corridor with pale stone flooring and wall strips glowing soft white. The space held an even quiet except for distant conversation from a passing pair of residents in pressed uniforms. Miri Ellis stepped out first. The corridor temperature felt cooler and cleaner than the walkway above. Her legs felt heavier now that her stomach had food in it. Hunger had kept her upright through habit. With it eased, fatigue settled over her shoulders. Myron walked a half step ahead, leading her, but leaving enough room for her to drift left or right. He moved with silent precision, avoiding any sudden shifts. He wasn't performing caution for her. This was his natural way of navigating any space. A detail she hadn't noticed earlier caught her attention now. His left leg carried a slight stiffness at the knee. It wasn't visible when he stood still, but it showed during longer strides. She made note of it quietly. They reached a metal door marked with a small number panel. Myron placed his palm against the reader. The lock clicked open with a muted sound. He stepped aside and held the door for her. "You set the new code," he said. Inside, she entered first, keeping her shoulders squared. The room smelled faintly of detergent and warm electronics. The floor was smooth dark stone, cool under her boots. A fold-down bed sat against the far wall, sheets pulled tight. A small cooking unit rested under a storage shelf stocked with sealed meal packs and metal cups. A sliding screen led to a compact hygiene stall. She scanned the space quickly. No clutter, no hidden corners, no shadows deep enough to hide someone else. She felt a subtle relief settle in her chest. Myron closed the door behind them. He didn't remove his coat immediately. Instead, he watched her read the room. When she finally stepped away from the entry path, he moved to the wall panel and reset the locking sequence. "Press your hand here," he said. She approached slowly. Her fingers brushed the panel. The lock flashed green, confirming her imprint. "That code is yours now," he said. She lifted her chin slightly. "You're not worried I'll lock you out of your own home?" "If you do, I'll sleep in the hall until you open it again," he said. "I'm not forcing you to stay." His steady tone unsettled her more than threats ever had. She pulled off the heavy jacket and dropped it over the back of a metal chair. Underneath, the thin strap of her wrap dress had slipped lower, exposing more of her shoulder. She adjusted it without hurry. The warmth of the room eased the tension in her muscles. Her boots scraped softly as she walked to the drinking unit and filled a metal cup with filtered water. Her hands wrapped around it, absorbing its clean coolness. Myron finally removed his coat, folding it neatly over the second chair. He wore a simple dark shirt underneath, sleeves rolled to mid-forearm. Small lines in the fabric showed where body armor had once sat, habits embedded into clothing choices. "You were an infantry sergeant," Mary Ellis said. "They don't retire that early unless something happened." He paused beside the cooking unit, hands resting on the counter. The faint hum of the air filter filled the silence that followed. "A decompression accident," he said. "We lost part of a team in a damaged airlock. They pulled me out. The others didn't make it." She didn't speak. His voice had no tremor, but the muscles around his jaw tightened. "So you left," she said gently. "I was told I could stay in or leave honorably. I chose the second." He reached for 2 sealed meal packs on the shelf, protein strips with light seasoning. "I needed quiet." She considered him while unfastening her boots. "And bringing me here is quiet?" "It won't be," he said, "but it's still the right choice." She blinked, caught off guard by his directness. The words landed deeper than she expected. Her feet felt raw when she stepped out of the boots. The floor's chill soothed the soreness. She walked toward the bed and sat on its edge, elbows on her knees. Her stomach ached from hunger and the sudden change in warmth. "You didn't ask me why I came here," she said quietly. "You'll tell me when you want to." She hesitated, then spoke anyway. "My homeworld cities are collapsing. Fewer jobs, fewer shuttles. I came up here to keep my sister fed. At first it worked." She looked down at her hands. Until it didn't. Myron opened the meal packs. The protein strips inside were dark red and glossy with oil. He set them on 2 small plates and placed one near her. "Eat," he said. She lifted a strip. The surface was warm and slightly sticky. The taste was savory with a soft tang of spice. She closed her eyes once as the flavor spread, then forced them open again. Myron leaned against the table, arms crossed loosely. He studied her movements without judgment. "You checked the lift corners earlier," he said. "You always do that." "Spaces with closed doors are dangerous," she said. "I learned that the hard way. You had trouble on the lower tiers. I had men grab me more than once. I fought back more than once." Her voice held no drama, only fact. But fighting back doesn't always mean winning. He nodded slowly. It means surviving long enough for the next choice. She looked at him for a long moment. "You talk like someone who's lost people he wasn't ready to lose." He answered with a small breath, but no words. That was enough. The room grew quiet again. The hum of the wall unit blended with faint noise from distant tiers. Mary Ellis felt her chest loosen. Her body still held the instinct to run, but part of her rested for the first time in days. "You can shower," Myron said, breaking the silence. "Clothes might be an issue, but I have shirts you can use." She looked at her wrap dress. The fabric was stretched thin and stained from past days. One shirt will be enough. He picked a dark shirt from a drawer and placed it on the bed beside her. The fabric was soft and smelled clean. She touched it lightly. "Thank you," she said. He gave a small nod. "I'll start the heat cycle. You'll be warm for the night." She walked to the hygiene stall and paused at the doorway. "If I come out and you're asleep, I'll take the floor." "No," he said. "You take the bed. I'll take the chair. That chair looks uncomfortable. My back can handle it." She studied him briefly, unsure of how to respond. "You're not doing this for free." "I am," he said. "Nobody does." "I do." Her throat tightened. She stepped into the stall and closed the screen gently. Myron exhaled and moved to the wall panel, lowering the lights a fraction. He planned to guide her through whatever came next in slower steps, without rushing her into anything she didn't fully choose. He sat in the chair, elbows on his knees, listening to the steady sound of water hitting tile. The tension he'd carried from the performance hall shifted to something quieter, responsibility, not pressure. Inside the stall, Mary Ellis pressed her palms to the warm spray and let it wash the grime from her skin. She felt something unfamiliar settle low in her chest. Not safety, not trust, but the beginning of both. When she eventually stepped out, the room glowed dimly. Myron looked up. She wore his dark shirt, fabric hanging loosely over her thighs. Her white hair dripped water onto her shoulders. She didn't move toward the bed or the door. She walked toward him instead. Mary Ellis stopped in front of him without speaking. Water rolled down her arms and gathered at her wrists before falling to the floor in small, uneven drops. The dark shirt clung to her damp skin, outlining the shape of her ribs and the soft line of her waist. Her breath was steady, but her shoulders were tense, as if she didn't know what to do with the space between them. Myron sat forward in the chair, elbows on his knees. He didn't move closer. His eyes held on hers, checking her expression before anything else. The dim light softened the sharp lines of his face, but it didn't hide the way his gaze tracked every detail. Her wet hair, the faint mark on her collarbone, the careful way she kept her weight centered on both feet. "You should rest," he said quietly. "You've been on your feet too long." "I'm not tired," she answered, though her voice betrayed something else. "Not yet." She lifted her hand and pressed a strand of wet hair behind her ear. Her fingers trembled slightly. She noticed the tremble and closed her hand to hide it. "You're still sitting like you're on duty," she added. "It's habit," he said. "I stay alert at night. Easier that way." She looked around the room again. The neat shelf, the simple bed, the clean floor. "You live like someone expecting to leave at any moment." "I lived 10 years moving every few weeks," he said. The habit stayed. Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Then what am I doing here? You said you don't bring people home. You needed a door that locked. And I had one." His voice stayed calm. "If there's more you need, you'll tell me." She took a slow step closer. The floor cooled the soles of her feet. Her breathing deepened. "What if what I need isn't a bed?" He watched her posture change. Her hips angled slightly, her shoulders pushed back just enough to show she was testing something, not performing it. He straightened a little, ready to read her next move. "Mary Ellis," he said, "you don't owe me anything. That's not what I asked." Her tone held no sharpness. It carried a quiet strain, a need to understand where she stood in this room and with this man. She slid her fingers along the back of the chair he sat in, her touch brushing near his shoulder. The contact was soft, but its meaning was not. Her heart pushed too hard against her chest. "If I wanted your attention," she asked, "would you take it?" He felt heat rise under his skin. The answer came easily, without hesitation. "Yes." She froze for a moment, surprised he didn't pretend otherwise. "Then why are you sitting all the way over here?" "Because you haven't decided what you want yet," he said, voice low. "I'm waiting for the choice to be real." Her breath shortened. She stepped between his knees, the hem of the shirt brushing his shins. She tilted her face up toward his. "I chose to walk into your home," she said. "I'm standing in front of you in nothing but your shirt. What choice do you think I'm making?" He rested one hand lightly on her hip, fingers warm against her damp skin. He didn't pull her closer. He let her feel the steadiness of his touch. Her body reacted instantly. Her shoulders relaxed. Her lips parted slightly in a quiet exhale. "Then come here," he said. She moved into his space without hesitation. Her hands gripped the sides of his face, pulling his mouth to hers. The kiss was immediate, warm, hungry, more honest than anything she'd said all night. Her weight settled onto his lap as she leaned in harder, her thighs brushing his. Her wet hair spread across his shirt, cooling his skin. He kissed her back with controlled intensity, one hand sliding up her spine to the base of her neck. The other stayed anchored at her waist, grounding them both. When she pulled back for air, her pulse hammered visibly at her throat. She rested her forehead against his. "I haven't felt this in a long time," she whispered. "Something that wasn't bought or taken." "I know," he said softly. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the closeness settle. When she opened them again, a flicker of uncertainty crossed her face. "If I stay here, even after tonight, what happens to me? What do you expect from me?" "Nothing," he said, "but I'll make sure you eat. Sleep. Get your strength back. And when you're ready, I'll help you find work again." "Why would you do that?" she asked. "Because you should stand on your own feet again," he said. "Not because of me. Because it's yours to have." She looked at him a long time, searching for the smallest hint of a lie. She found none. He felt her breath warm against his cheek. "And if I want more than that," she said. "Not because I'm desperate. Because I choose it. Then you stay," he said, "and we take it one step at a time." She sat back slightly, studying him again. Her expression shifted, less defensive, more deliberate. "Then we start now." He slid his hand along her thigh, fingers brushing the warm edge of his shirt. She didn't flinch. She leaned into his touch, her breathing deepening. The tension in her shoulders faded, replaced by a steady, growing heat. A faint chime sounded from the wall panel, an alert indicating the building's night cycle starting. Dim lights softened the room even further. Outside the small window, the glow from the lower tiers pulsed like distant traffic. Miriellis glanced toward the bed, then back at him. "If you still want me," she murmured, "I'm right here." He rose from a chair with her still in his arms. She let out a soft breath as her body lifted, her legs tightening around him for balance. Her hands slid over his shoulders, steady and sure. He carried her to the bed, placing her down gently as her fingers pressed into the back of his neck. She tugged him back toward her, leaving no space between them. The lights dimmed further, the hum of the air unit softening. Her white hair spread across the pillow. His hands moved over her waist, her ribs learning the lines of her body without rushing. She pulled him down into another kiss, slow, firm, claiming. There was no confusion in the room now. No debt, no trade. Only two people choosing the same moment, the same need, the same closeness. Their breath mingled, their bodies pressing together as the night cycle settled fully over the tier. And for the first time since arriving on Oris tier, Miriellis felt warmth she hadn't paid for, hadn't begged for, hadn't been forced into. She felt chosen. Morning light in Oris tier wasn't sunlight. It was a scheduled illumination shift, soft white panels brightening at a slow, controlled pace. The glow lifted the room one shade at a time. Miriellis stirred before her eyes opened, sensing the change through the thin skin of her eyelids. Her cheek rested against Myron's chest, her fingers loosely curled against his ribs. His heartbeat thudded in a calm, steady rhythm beneath her ear. She blinked and pushed a bit of hair off her face. The air in the room carried a faint warmth from the heating cycle Myron had set the night before. His shirt still hung from her shoulders, the hem brushing her thighs as she shifted. The blanket had slid off her legs during the night. The cool air against her shins made her pull them closer to Myron's body. He opened his eyes when she moved, his expression relaxed but alert. "You sleep at all?" he asked. "A little," she said. "A lot, actually." Her voice sounded rough from sleep. "I didn't expect that. You were exhausted." She raised her head to look at him. His hair was slightly mussed, one side flattened where she'd pressed against him all night. The sight made her mouth twitch into a small smile. "You took the bed," he said. "I warned you I'd keep the chair." "You didn't even try," she replied. "You were here beside me before I fell asleep." He rested his hand on her hip. I wasn't going to leave you alone your first night. Her chest warmed at the steadiness in his voice. She swallowed lightly. I'm not used to waking up next to someone who wants nothing from me. Myron's thumb brushed her skin slowly. Get used to it. She looked away briefly, the weight of those words landing deep. Her stomach tightened, not with fear this time, but with something unfamiliar and heavier. Then her stomach growled loudly. Myron raised an eyebrow. Breakfast? That obvious? She muttered. Very. She sat up, tugging the shirt lower on her thighs. Her hair fell over her shoulders in tangled waves. She pushed it back as she stood, feet bare on the cool stone floor. I'll get the plates, she said, mostly out of habit, an instinct to repay, to avoid feeling like a burden. Myron caught her wrist lightly. Sit. I'll handle it. She hesitated, then let him guide her back onto the bed. You're going to spoil me. You need strength, he said, and you're not spoiling. You're recovering. She didn't argue. Her legs still felt a little shaky when she stood, a mix of fatigue, hunger, and the intensity of the night before. While Myron worked at the cooking unit, Mary Ellis took the chance to examine the room with clear morning eyes. The shelves held only essentials, tools, folded clothing, sealed food packs, a small stack of calibration reports. No decorations, no clutter, no signs of anyone else ever staying here. A faint line of dust along the top of the storage unit told her he rarely touched anything unless it served a direct purpose. The man lived like someone who expected to move at any moment. What time do you start work? She asked. No shifts today, he said. I took the day off. Because of me? Yes. She absorbed that quietly. You didn't have to. I know. He placed 2 plates on the table. Grilled sarnu strips warmed lightly, a side of crisped root slices drizzled with seasoning oil, and small bread wedges from a market vendor he trusted. He slid a cup of Frolin seed coffee toward her. Eat, he said again. She took a bite of the sarnu, chewing slowly, savoring the heat and the soft glaze. The flavors grounded her. After a few bites, her shoulders loosened. She took the coffee next, the bitter drink warming her chest with every swallow. Myron watched her eat, not staring, but checking, making sure her hands were steady, making sure she didn't rush through hunger. Do you have somewhere you need to be today? He asked. She looked at the plate. No. What about messages? Anyone expecting you? She shook her head. No one knows where I am. My sister's planetside, but she hasn't heard from me in months. Messaging her costs more than I have. I can cover it, he said. When you're ready. She paused. Not yet. If I send her a message now, she'll think I'm stable again. I need to be sure I won't disappear on her a second time. That's fair, he said. She glanced at him. You're not pushing me to do anything. I keep waiting for the catch. There isn't one, he said simply. People like you don't exist here, she murmured. He leaned back in his chair. I'm not from here. That small truth explained more than she expected. His posture, his habits, the way he moved through rooms. What was your world like, she asked. Cold, he said. Mountains, military academies. Everyone taught to work, not talk. Not much softness. And you left it for this? I left it for the orbital stations first, he said. Then I left the stations for here. You keep leaving places, she said softly. I keep moving forward, he corrected. His eyes met hers, steady and unreadable. She felt something pull at her chest again, fear mixed with trust. After breakfast, Myron stood and went to a small storage drawer near the bed. He pulled out a folded bundle and held it out to her. Clothes, he said. Not perfect, but better than the dress. She unfolded the bundle. Inside was a simple black shirt similar to his, a pair of soft utility leggings, and a woven wrap she could use as a belt or shawl. These are new, she said. I bought them last month, he said. I keep extra for emergencies. Emergency? She repeated with a faint smile. You count. She rose from the bed and stepped closer to him. The shirt she wore brushed her upper thighs as she moved. Her hand slid across the clothes he'd given her. You're doing a lot for someone you met last night, she said. He didn't look away. You needed someone to stand still. I can do that. Her breath caught. She didn't speak for several seconds. Then she reached up, gently touching his jaw with her fingertips. I'm not going anywhere today, she said. Good, he replied. We've got a lot to take care of. Like what? He listed calmly, as if he had already mapped the whole day. Food supplies, new clothes, getting you a temporary ID number so you can apply for work, checking which safe sectors you can walk through without being harassed. And later, if you want, we talk about a long-term plan. She blinked. You planned all of this already? Since last night, he said. I make decisions quickly. Miri Ellis stepped closer until their bodies nearly touched. Her hand slid along his chest. And you decided on me quickly too? Yes. And you're sure? Very. She exhaled slowly, the tension in her spine melting. Then take me with you today, wherever you go. He reached for her waist, pulling her in just enough to feel her warmth. Get dressed. We're stepping outside in 10 minutes. She nodded and turned away to change, confident now. Not in the world outside, but in the man standing solidly in the center of it. The room stayed warm while Miri Ellis changed. Myron waited near the door, giving her space without looking directly at her, though he could hear the soft rustle of fabric as she pulled on the shirt and leggings. When she stepped out from behind the small divider, she tugged the woven wrap around her waist, tying it at her hip. The outfit fit her better than she expected. It shaped to her form and highlighted the line of her waist. Myron turned to see her fully. His eyes paused for a moment, long enough for her to feel the effect of his gaze. Her pulse jumped, heat rising under her skin. The quiet appreciation in his expression felt different from hunger and different from pity. It was something more grounding. He stepped closer, the floor slightly creaking beneath his boots. His hand rose, brushing a strand of white hair behind her ear. She leaned into the touch instinctively. You look good, he said, voice low and steady. I feel strange, she admitted. Like my body isn't mine yet. It will be, he said. You're getting it back piece by piece. Miri Ellis swallowed lightly, her throat tightening. She lifted her hand and placed it gently against his chest, feeling the warmth beneath the fabric. His breath deepened at the touch, chest rising under her fingers. They stood close, too close for the moment to stay still. He slid his hand down her arm, then around her waist. She stepped in without hesitation, her body fitting against his. They stayed like that for a beat, the distance collapsing until their foreheads touched. Her breath mixed with his, slow and warm. When she looked up, something in her eyes had shifted from caution to intention. Kiss me, she whispered. He didn't rush. His fingers moved to the back of her neck, guiding her gently. Their lips met, slow at first, testing steady. Then the kiss deepened as she pressed herself against him, her hands sliding up to his shoulders. His grip tightened at her waist, pulling her closer. Her body responded instantly, warmth blooming everywhere his hands touched. She rose on her toes slightly, wanting more contact, more closeness. He lifted her easily, guiding her back toward the bed. When the backs of her legs touched the mattress, she broke the kiss with a small exhale, her chest rising fast. Still want this? He murmured. She answered by pulling him closer again, her lips grazing the edge of his jaw. Yes. He laid her down gently, his hands firm at her hips as she settled into the blankets. She tugged him down after her fingers curling into the fabric of his shirt. Their legs tangled, skin brushing skin. The heat between them built slowly, their movements deliberate, controlled, but filled with intent. She pulled his shirt slightly, wanting more closeness. He kissed her again, this time deeper, his weight settling over her in a way that made her breath catch. Her hands roamed his back, her touch seeking warmth, reassurance, and connection all at once. Their bodies aligned in a quiet rhythm, not rushed, not desperate. Something grounding, something that made her feel present and real. Every movement they shared felt chosen, wanted, and free. Her breath hitched when his lips trailed along her neck. She slid her leg over his, pulling him closer. His palm moved over her thigh slowly, guiding her body with steady confidence. She responded without holding back, her arms wrapping around him, her hips lifting to meet him. The room felt small, warm, safe. Every sound softened by the blankets and the hum of the building's morning cycle. When intensity peaked, she curled into him, her forehead against his shoulder, her breath shaking slightly. He held her firmly, one hand at her back, the other cradling her hip. Her heart pounded against his chest in a fast, uneven rhythm. For a long moment, neither spoke. Their breath mingled in the quiet. Eventually, Miriellis shifted slightly, her cheek resting over his heartbeat. "I didn't think I could feel anything like that again." "You can," he said, "and you will. As many times as you want." She let out a soft breath, her fingers tracing small, slow lines along his side. "Are we still going out today?" "Yes," he said, "but not until you're steady on your feet." Her lips curved into a tired, satisfied smile. "Then give me a minute. You can have as long as you want." She slid her hand up to his jaw, guiding his face closer. She kissed him again, gentler this time, grateful rather than hungry. He returned the kiss with the same warmth, his thumb brushing her cheek slowly. When she finally pulled back, her voice was quiet but firm. "I'm not afraid to step outside with you now." "You won't need to be," he said. He helped her sit up carefully, their bodies still close. She rested her forehead against his for a moment longer, letting the calm sink in. Then she breathed in, steadying herself. "Okay," she said softly. "Let's go see the world again." He stood, offered her his hand, and she took it, holding on with a grip that was no longer desperate but chosen. Myron opened the apartment door, and a thin draft of cool air slipped inside. Miriellis tightened a shawl around her shoulders and stepped out beside him. Her posture was steadier than earlier, her steps measured, her breathing controlled. A faint ache lingered in her legs, but she didn't try to hide it. He noticed anyway and adjusted his pace without comment. They walked along the corridor leading toward the outer walkway. The polished stone underfoot reflected soft strips of amber lighting. Miriellis lifted her chin slightly, scanning the empty stretch ahead. The hum of distant elevators pulsed through the wall, steady and familiar. "Still good?" Myron asked quietly. "Still good," she said, just aware of everything. They took the lift down 2 levels. The doors slid open to a busier walkway. Merchant stalls, commuters carrying folded hollow sheets, a few food vendors preparing early lunch trays. The smells hit immediately. Roasted Zyron meat, spiced Roth peppers, and the rich bitterness of Ferland seed coffee drifting from a stall nearby. Miriellis hesitated only once. A group of 3 workers stood near the railing, glancing her way as the lift doors parted. Not cruel, just curious. She felt her chest tighten, but she held her ground. Myron's hand brushed lightly against her back, not pushing, simply anchoring her. She moved forward. They walked past the first set of stalls. Miriellis paused near a vendor grilling thin slices of Orvan beast meat over a heating slab. The surface hissed softly as the cook pressed the flesh flat, sprinkling crushed spice leaves across it. "Hungry?" Myron asked. "A little." She eyed the meat. "Smells better than the dried packets downstairs." He stepped to the counter. 2 plates. The vendor, an older man with gray ridges over his brow, slid 2 steaming servings across. Sliced meat, a small mound of crisp grain, and a strip of dark sauce along the side. Myron handed one to Miriellis. Her fingers curled around the warm dish. They moved to a standing ledge near the railing. She took a careful bite. The meat was tender, lightly charred, and the spice left a mild heat on her tongue. Her eyes softened. "This is good," she said quietly. "You need real food," he replied. A moment later, a voice cut through the noise, not loud, but sharp enough to freeze Miriellis mid-bite. "Didn't expect to see you up here again." Myron turned first. A woman approached from the left, dark coat, clipped steps, hair pulled into a tight knot. She carried a small case under one arm and stopped a few paces away. Her expression wasn't hostile, but the familiarity in her eyes directed itself at Myron, not Miriellis. "Myron," she said flatly, "we're supposed to start the calibration brief in an hour. You didn't answer your panel." Miriellis watched Myron's posture shift. Straight, controlled, unreadable. Not defensive. Prepared. "Schedule changed," he said. The woman looked at Miriellis next, letting her gaze travel over the shawl, the shirt, the wrap around her waist, the faint marks on her neck from his mouth earlier. Miriellis felt heat creep up her skin, embarrassment mixed with a flick of annoyance. She refused to look away. "So this is where you've been," the woman said. "I thought you'd found another contract." "Not this." Myron let the silence sit for a beat. "I'm not reporting to the hall today. You don't have the clearance to skip." "I do," he said. "I already submitted the override." She blinked. "You're really doing this? Throwing away a stable tier contract for someone you pulled off the lower levels?" Miri Ellis felt something cold tighten in her stomach. Myron's jaw flexed once, barely visible. "I didn't ask for anything to be thrown away," Miri Ellis said quietly. The woman's gaze snapped back to her. "You don't need to ask. Men like him always do the same thing. They go soft. They take risks they can't justify." Myron took a single step forward, blocking the woman's view of Miri Ellis without raising his voice. "Walk away," he said. "That's your answer?" she said. "After everything." "Walk away," he repeated. The woman's mouth tightened. She shifted her gaze from one arm to the other, glared once at Miri Ellis, then turned and left without another word. The walkway noise resumed around them. Miri Ellis let out a slow exhale she didn't realize she'd been holding. Myron didn't speak immediately. He just brushed his hand along her forearm, grounding her again. "Who was she?" Miri Ellis asked after a moment. "Someone I used to work with," he said. "Someone who won't change anything about today." She nodded, swallowing the knot in her throat. A new worry edged in, quiet but stubborn. "You lost something important for me," she said. "No," he replied. "I walked away from something empty." She didn't answer right away. Instead, she finished the last bite of her food, her thoughts heavy but steadying. He didn't pressure her. When she set the empty plate aside, he took her hand, linking their fingers. "Come on," he said. "There's one place I want to show you." They walked along the outer curve of the tier. The air felt colder, cleaner. The walkway opened to a viewing platform above a massive downward shaft, where layers of hover traffic moved like silent currents. Miri Ellis stepped closer to the railing, her shawl fluttering in the tier wind. She felt something tense in her chest loosen. "What is this place?" she asked. "My favorite part of the ring." He leaned his hands on the railing beside her. "Quiet. No vendors. No crowds. It's beautiful," she said. Myron watched the light flicker across her skin. She sensed it, his eyes on her, the intention behind it. She turned to him slowly, her fingers brushing his wrist. "You're sure?" she asked. "About all of this?" "I was sure the moment you stepped into that elevator with me," he said. Her breath caught, not from shock, but from the weight of the certainty in his voice. She stepped closer, their forearms touching, their bodies angled toward each other, but not pressed together yet. "Then stay with me," she said softly. He didn't need to answer. He tilted his head and kissed her, this time without hesitation. She gripped the front of his coat, pulling him closer until her chest pressed to his. His hand slid to her back, holding her steady against the wind. When they parted, her voice was faint but firm. "Myron, I think something is happening to me." He traced his thumb along her cheek. "Tell me. My body feels different. My sense is sharper, and I've been feeling warm here." She pressed her palm lightly to her lower abdomen. "It started yesterday." He didn't react with fear or confusion. He rested his hand over hers, steady and accepting. "Then we'll figure it out together," he said. Her throat tightened. She leaned into him, her cheek against his chest. The city wind cooled her skin. His hand on her back stayed firm. And for the first time since she arrived in Orestier, she felt the shape of a future forming instead of collapsing. The wind settled as they stood on the viewing platform. The distant hum of hover traffic blended into a low, even vibration beneath their feet. Miri Ellis kept her hand on her lower abdomen, Myron's palm resting over hers. The warmth between their hands contrasted sharply with the cool tier air, and for a moment neither of them moved. She pulled in a quiet breath. "Myron, I'm scared." He heard the strain in her voice immediately. He wrapped his arm around her waist, steadying her against his side. "You're not alone. Whatever this is, we handle it step by step." She nodded once, but the tension in her shoulders didn't ease. He felt it clearly under his arm. "Let's go home," he said. She didn't argue. They walked back through the curved walkway, passing small clusters of workers and travelers. The crowd didn't matter to her now. She kept close to him, fingers hooked through his, moving with purpose rather than fear. Inside the apartment, she moved directly to the low table and sat down slowly. Myron set 2 cups of Orvan Mist tea on the surface. She cupped the warm drink in both hands, taking a short sip, letting the heat settle in her chest. He sat across from her, not pushing for explanation, waiting for her to speak when she was ready. Her eyes drifted to her abdomen again. "My cycle was always irregular," she said. "But this, it feels different. I don't feel sick or weak. It's more like something is preparing itself inside me." Myron rested his forearms on the table. "Does it hurt?" "No," she said. "Just warm. Heavy sometimes." He watched her quietly. She shifted slightly and looked up at him. "What if it's real?" she asked. "What if I am?" "If you are," he said, cutting in gently, "then we plan for it. I already made space in this place for you. Making more isn't difficult." She stared at him, trying to process how direct he was. "You say that like it's simple." "It is," he said, "when it's with someone you want." Miri Ellis blinked, absorbing the weight of the words. Something inside her softened in response. She set the cup down, stood up, and crossed the room to the balcony door. She rested her hands on the railing, looking down at the endless glow of the lower tiers. Myron joined her a moment later, standing behind her, hands lightly on her hips. She leaned back into him without thinking. "Do you regret stepping away from your work?" she asked. "No," he said. "I regret not walking away sooner." She turned her head slightly, catching the blunt honesty in his voice. "They won't take you back easily. I'm not planning to go back." Her breath caught. "Then what will you do?" He slid his hands up her arms, steadying the tremble she didn't hide well. "I'll find a new contract, something that lets me stay close to home. Something steady enough for both of us." She swallowed. "Both of us and maybe more." He nodded once, slow and sure. "If that's what's happening inside you, then yes." The air thickened between them. Miri Ellis reached up, covering his hand with hers. "I never thought I'd hear someone say that to me," she whispered. "I meant every word." She turned fully, facing him, her fingers hooked lightly into the collar of his coat. "Then show me." Not with words. He guided her back inside. The door slid shut behind them, muffling the city. Miri Ellis stopped near the bed, her chest rising with each breath. She didn't wait this time. She pulled him closer by the front of his shirt, kissing him with a slow, deliberate pressure. He returned it without hesitation, hands settling around her waist, then tightening just enough to lift her slightly and lay her back against the blankets. She wrapped her legs around him, pulling him down, guiding him with her own body. The kiss deepened, her fingers sliding into his hair, his palm moving along her thigh, anchoring her under him. They moved together without rush, without desperation, just a steady rhythm that felt like claiming space inside each other's lives. Miri Ellis's breath trembled when he pressed deeper into her kiss, her hands wandering down his back, urging him closer. The world outside the apartment faded to a muted hum. When they finally slowed, Miri Ellis held onto him, her forehead pressed to his, both of them breathing steadily against each other. Warmth lingered between them, physical and grounding. "Myron," she whispered, "I think I'm ready. For all of it." He moved a hand to her cheek. "Then we build from here." She nodded and kissed him once more, softer now. After a long moment, she pushed herself up, adjusting the wrap at her waist. Myron sat beside her, his hand resting at the small of her back. "What do we do first?" she asked. "We get you checked," he said. "Not a clinic. Someone I trust." She raised a brow. "Someone, a retired medical tech, a few tiers down. No questions. No records." She exhaled in relief. "Good. I can handle that." He stood and offered his hand again. She took it, rising to her feet without hesitation. Her body felt heavier but stable. After that, he continued, "We eat real food. Meat again, and whatever you're craving." Her lips curved at the corners. "That spice-braised Orvan meat from earlier. I'll get you a whole plate." They walked toward the door. Before stepping out, Miri Ellis paused and looked around the apartment. The bed still warm, the dishes on the table, her shawl draped over the chair, the faint glow of the balcony behind them. "This feels like a home now," she said quietly. "It is," Myron replied. She stepped close and pressed a brief kiss to his jaw. "Then I'm staying." He wrapped an arm around her waist, holding her close for a final moment before they left. They walked out together, steady, aligned, ready for whatever the next tier held. No fear, no hesitation, only a future that had already begun to take shape inside her body and inside their shared steps. And for the first time in her life, Mary Ellis felt certain the world ahead wasn't something she had to survive alone.